What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Kill Shot MMA podcast. We've got UFC 274, Oliveira versus Gaethje, and we've got a special guest. The president of the Tracy Cortez OnlyFans Club is with us, SunTszu. What's up, my man?
I will say Cortez isn't really that much my type, and I know that might be sacrilegious to a lot of people, but
no.
Like the whole adage is, I wouldn't kick you out of bed for eating crackers. That applies, of course, but not exactly my type. But look, I am so happy to be here, Kevin. I'm glad you reached out to me. I am, for those of you that don't follow me on Twitter, and I never lobby for followers. I'm in Vegas for the Canelo Alvarez fight. So this is from my villa at the Red Rock. Kevin asked if I would come on. We've got some women's fights. This is the only pod I'm doing this week. I'm not doing the RotoWire pod. I got the week off. Brett Appley's in Hawaii at a wedding. We're not doing an alpha pod. So, if anybody has any interest in what I have to say, this is it.
We got a lot of ladies on this card, a lot of female warriors, and nobody breaks them down better than SunTszu. And of course, as always, Big Marley's here. Sleeves are out, 17-inch guns, showing for the world to see.
Yeah, sir, man. I couldn't have a 4-fight WMMA card and not have SunTszu on it. So glad to have you here, Joe. It's been a while since I've done a podcast with you. But I'm excited for this card. We got 200K up top, just an awesome card. I'm looking forward to watching it. Looking forward to hopefully winning some money, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you guys.
Hell yeah. And just a reminder, we switched up the format a little bit and are going to start with the main event. And we'll work our way down the card because, I don't want to make the people wait. This is YouTube. This ain't old school TV. Make me wait till the end for the goodness. We are starting at the top of the card. We will work our way through every single fight, DraftKings perspective, betting perspective, whatever perspective you want. We got it. Now let's start. I don't know how much more. This is a fight. I don't care if you never watched the UFC before. I don't care if this is your first. You're a big fan. Whoever you are excited to see Charles do Bronx Oliveira and Justin Gaethje square off. These guys are both awesome action fighters. Big Marley, big fan of Oliveira. You called it. Nailed it for years. Been betting Oliveira again and again, winning money. And do Bronx comes in as a minus 170 favorite in this fight with the comeback on Justin Gaethje at plus 150. So that's our setup. The fight, I don't think it has almost any chance of going to decision, but the fight ends inside the distance number is minus 360, and already that stands out as a bettable number. I think it's not going to decision, boys. I don't think so. So I'll start with you, Big Marley. Give you a minute to settle in, son. And how do you see this fight going? I mean, you got two pressure fighters. Do Bronx probably the better is the better grappler, and Gaethje probably the better striker.
Yeah, I can't wait for this fight. Any Justin Gaethje fight is always going to be fireworks. I've been a Do Bronx fan since his first fight in the UFC, a decade plus ago, and I'm excited for this one. I think that it's the only all-in fight on the card for DraftKings. I don't really care who you like. You can go heavier on that side if you want, but the only mistake with this fight is to not use it in a GPP. I would just be shocked to see this fight end anyways, as long as there's no I poke no contest. Like, that's the only way that you're fading this fight, really. But if this fight ends, there's no way that the winner's not on the optimal lineup, scoring 100-plus points. I would give Gaethje the striking edge, but Oliveira can hang on the feet. He can knock him out on the feet as well. So I think that Gaethje really needs to knock him out here. I think he can deliver some mean leg kicks to kind of slow him down throughout the fight. But the biggest mismatch in this fight is Oliveira on the ground. I think it could only take one takedown from Oliveira to finish this fight. So I'm definitely going to lean with him as my pick. He'll be the guy that I'm getting leverage to, but I won't have a single GPP lineup without this fight. And I would much rather stack it rather than fade it. And then in cash games, I would stack it as well. I'm not going solo on this fight. We got two title fights on this card, but this is the one that you got to stack in the cash games.
I would argue that because it's going to be a fast finish, or you've got a chance at an early enough I thought about this one for cash games, Marley, and I know you're definitely getting a big score out of one guy, but it's not a lock that like the other guy will score big. That's my one. Unless Gaethje wins, then I think if he's winning, it's probably a longer, more drawn out battle.
Yeah, I'm not looking for 5 or 6 wins in cash games. I just want to lock that one in with 120 plus points. And that's cool with me for cash games. But I'm also probably not going to be playing cash, so we'll see about that.
There it is.
Pay-per-views are usually when I do, but I haven't started.
I really thought about that. I really thought about this one. Joe, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, so first, I respectfully, again, disagree with Marley and agree with Kevin. I actually like the ladies' title fight better for cashing, just because I think I see Rose with striking upside and Carla with grappling upside, but we can talk about that fight later. I have a pretty interesting take, and there's an evolution to how I'm playing that fight. As it relates to this fight, Marley's point, you want to have exposure to this fight. I mean, looking quickly at Chucky Olives here from a historical perspective, the big knock on Chucky was that at the merest hint of adversity, he would just kind of fold up, right? And he's gotten over that. Now, remember, this is a guy that Paul Felder beat, right? I am so impressed with his striking. I was at his fight against Chandler. Chandler put him in a difficult spot. He didn't fold up. He came out and he finished Chandler, in the second round. I really like the way that his stand-up has evolved. Now, let's go to Gaethje, right? This is essentially what? I know he trains at Elevation, but I believe he's from Arizona, isn't he? Wasn't he originally from Arizona, or did he go to school in Arizona? One of the two, right? Guy's wrestling since he was 4 years old, but for some reason, he's extremely reticent to use his wrestling, right? Like everybody's always saying, oh, Gaethje's got this wrestling in his back pocket. Have we ever seen him use it? No, right? So I agree that, Gaethje maybe early. If the longer, Charles Dubront's early. If he gets a takedown, you're right, it could be over pretty quickly. I kind of like Gaethje's chances as the fight goes long, right? Just because I think if he frustrates Oliveira and Oliveira can't get him down, Gaethje's got great cardio, trains at Elevation. I am going to pick Chucky Olives to get the win here. Like I said, I love the way he evolved. His striking is at a new level. I never thought that I would say that he could, trade with Justin Gaethje, but like if you look at his last couple fights, and look, maybe part of it was guys like, Poirier, that was a good fight. But maybe part of it was, adrenaline dump by Chandler. Chandler, in my eyes, is a 7.5-minute fighter.
He's a gasser. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because I like Ferguson a bit. So, I'm going to go with Chucky Olives here. I do think that this could be a really interesting fight. This could be an interesting fight to live bet if you have access to live betting. But I think at the price point, I would be hard pressed to believe him not getting 100 points. And then I could see Gaethje maybe just beating the crap out of him, for 4 or 5 rounds. So I do see this as a 100-point, score for the winning fighter. Now, in 15 fights, is that enough? Right? Like you may need to go contrarian. And that's the only reason I'm not playing 100% of this fight, just because I want to have, I'm doing 100 lineups. I already locked them. For those of you that don't know, DFS is not legal in Vegas. So I have to reserve all my contests at home. I just edit the contests here in Vegas, which you're allowed to do. So I reserved 100 lineups. I want to have 10 lineups that don't have exposure to this fight out of 100.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I hear you on that, son. I do think that when you go through this card top to bottom and the price point, especially Gaethje under 8K, it's quite easy to make lineups. I don't think salary, if a couple things happen, there's some possibilities here where salary won't matter, especially if some big upsets happen, which I kind of am predicting one as well. But there's a few very likely big upsets here, or at least cheapies that could win. But overall, yeah, I agree. I mean, Oliveira's a killer. He is a nasty fighter at this point. You're right. He did lose to Felder, and I've used that to kind of like not play him quite more than I should have, right? I keep thinking about that Felder loss, but what we saw from Oliveira in his most recent fight is he is willing to go for takedowns. We also saw that Gaethje can be taken down, at least by Khabib. I don't know if Oliveira is to that extent a grappler, can get takedowns the same way that like somebody as elite as Khabib could. That's really what this fight's going to come down to, because Gaethje's going to be a higher volume. He will be the better striker. As much as I love the striking of Oliveira, Gaethje will be better at that. So I agree with you. I kind of think Oliveira's going to pull it off, but it's not super confident, because it's really, to me, going to come down to if he can get takedowns, and will he aggressively go after them? Love both sides. Again, Gaethje wins. He's in the nuts for sure. His volume is just too big over 5 rounds or the finish. Either way, he's in the nuts. And Oliveira, usually when he wins, he's in the nuts too. Big Marl, is there an example of Oliveira winning a fight where he didn't score well? I guess the Kevin Lee fight, but that was a 3-rounder.
Yeah, I mean, not off memory. And at 8,500, like if he was 9,200 or something, I think you could get away from him. But at 8,500, it's just, that's hard to believe that he doesn't only pay that off, but he probably scores 100 or more, especially in a Gaethje fight where Gaethje's bringing the pressure.
You know how he doesn't get there? If he's kind of getting a whooping in the first round, not really hanging on the striking, then gets the takedown submission second round kind of thing where maybe it's like a 93-pointer. But even that, I think at his price point should be enough. So, love this main event. Super excited to watch it. Should be a finish in there. I love the fight doesn't go to decision prop. Even at plus 350, I would be parlaying that. I do not see this going to decision. One of these guys is finished. Like, if DuBronx is standing with Gaethje, he's not going to make it past 3 rounds. He won't. All right, let's move on to fight number 2. We've got Thug Rose Namajunas taking on Carla Esparza in another 5-rounder. Rose is currently sitting at minus 220 with the comeback on Esparza at plus 180. And SunTszu, these two ladies fought once before, a long time ago.
2014.
It was BB. And that's when I say before baldness, because Rose transformed herself, rose up from the ashes like a caterpillar who emerged as a butterfly from her cocoon when she shaved that head, son. That was it. This is serious. She whooped Paige Van Zant's ass and never turned back after the shaving. SunTszu, did the shaving affect your judgment of Rose Namajunas at all?
Well, I mean, I thought she was hotter with hair, but aside from that, I will tell you, okay, so I have a bit of a narrative here, and we will blast through some of the lower level fights, but I think this is really important. So early on, I made a pretty significant wager on Rose at minus 170. I bought that all back.
Okay.
I got Esparza at plus 180. Now, I didn't buy it. It wasn't a large enough bet where I'm going to make an arb. Here's the reason I bought it back. And I think and I hope that I am not giving away privileged information here, because this gentleman as much as alluded to this on Twitter. And he does.
I think I've seen what you're referring to.
Okay, so he does give picks behind a paywall. So here's a little bit more color. So this guy is a full-time bettor who has earned 6 figures betting MMA, and I am not necessarily convinced that Rose is not going to win. So let me put that on the table. However, this guy has a low 5 figures bet on Carla, plus he has anywhere between 3 and 5K on Carla inside the distance. So I respect this guy a lot, and I'm willing to say, okay, I'll wash my Rose bet out. I got plus 180 on Carla back. I laid 170, 7.3K on DraftKings with some grappling upside. I mean, Rose was taken down 5 times by Z. So look, would it surprise me if Rose came out and just like head kicked, knocked out or Esparza? No. I mean, Rose's, as you mentioned, Rose's development as a fighter, but she can be taken down. Now, can Carla control her? I don't know. I mean, this gentleman seems to think that this is a great play, enough to put low 5 figures on her. So for that reason alone, I bought back all my Rose shares, and now I kind of like Carla at 7.3K on DraftKings. I don't hate this as a stack in cash because I think it'll likely go the distance, and I think there'll be grappling upside by Esparza. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe even Rose got a takedown or two, maybe a reversal. Obviously striking points. So I do like this fight above the other 5-rounder as a potential stack. I don't know if I'm going to stack it. I'm not. I could only play the cash games that I reserved when I was in New Jersey, so I can't really add any more games here. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do in terms of stacking, but I think Carla's a pretty good value at 7.3K on DraftKings. I think she's going to be pretty popular. The Cookie Monster
should be the most popular underdog, I would say.
There's one more that probably should be more popular that we'll talk about later. But so, man, it's tough. Like, I would say that for DraftKings, I like Carla just because she's 7.3K. You know, I still think Rose is going to win. So I guess if I'm officially making a pick, it's really bad because I'm going to have more shares of Carla. But if I'm officially making a pick, I guess I'm going to pick Rose. But I think Carla is a better pick for DraftKings.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, Carla as an underdog going up against the girl in Rose who has 50% takedown defense on her career. I get it. Carla wants to go for takedowns. She's up against a fighter who has not shown that she's very good at defending takedowns, Big Marley. What's going on with that?
I don't know that she's bad at defending takedowns.
She ain't that good, 50%.
Yeah, but it's also against like strikers where she's probably not spending her whole training camp trying to stuff takedowns. That's Esparza's only path here. That's her one edge is the wrestling. So she has to get takedowns. She has to keep top control. Otherwise, she loses the fight. And for her to do that for 5 rounds is what makes me have a hard time wanting to have much exposure to Esparza here. I think if this was a 3-round fight, it would help her a little bit more. I think it's a lot easier to take 2 of 3 rounds than it is 3 of 5 rounds. And if she is starting to wear out later in this fight, I just think Rose is going to finish her. Rose's edge on the feet is way bigger than Carla's edge and the wrestling. And if Carla's wrestling, I think Rose is more dangerous from bottom than Carla is on the top, like finishing wise. And then at the same time, or I guess the opposite way, if Rose gets on top of Carla, like Carla's fucked. I think there's a big difference in that there. So I'm on Rose here.
That's the story of my life, Marley, by the way, being more dangerous on bottom.
And I personally like the fade on the fight as much as I like Carla. So the way I'm going into it is I'm thinking I'm like 50% Rose, 25% Carla, and then 25% fade the fight in hopes that Carla wins the first 2 rounds and then Rose takes over or finishes after that and she just doesn't score enough to be on the optimal lineup. I think that's a legit path to this fight not being there. And then I also like that's why I like Rose solo for cash games more than I like either one of the guys from the main event solo because Carla's plus 650 inside the distance. So she just has such a higher floor than both those guys do because they're the ones that could end with 7 points or something like that. But if that happens, the other guy is going to score 130 points or something like that. So it's going to even out. I'd rather lock my winner in. And if Rose loses, I mean, it's definitely going to hurt my cash lineup, but she's still probably going to put up 40 plus points. Whereas I could have Oliveira solo and have like 3 points on my lineup and then be dead, So that's why I would stack the other one. But I'm also cool with the double stack. I always like stacking title fights. So the double stack is playable in cash as well.
Hey, Kevin, before we move on, let me do a brief shout out for DFS Army. A lot of people ask me how I build like my lineups for mass entry, and what I do is I always hand build the first 20. Now I may use the LO just to see how many lineups fit a certain criteria, like if I'm trying to see if I could create a lineup with all betting line favorites. But I generally hand build the first 20. Now, if I play 100 lineups like I'm doing in this card, I will exclusively use the DFS Army lineup optimizer for the remaining 80, right? Now, there are different ways that you could use the lineup optimizer, and that's why I think it's important that people, go through the tutorial and understand what you can do. Because, Marley and I, we're talking about excluding a fight from the lineup optimizer. How do you do that? Well, it's actually not that complicated, right? Where you can exclude fighters and essentially exclude a fight from that. There are, randomness that you could apply, randomness percentage. You could have two unique fighters to a lineup, which is sometimes a strategy I like to do when it's a high variance card. I'll click the button, give me 2 unique fighters, right?
Or 2 low-owned fighters, really low-owned fighters.
Yeah, you could do it that way too. I might just sometimes go with unique fighter, 2 unique fighters in every lineup. I may go that direction. So there are a lot of different ways. Don't just like go in and like run the LO because you're going to get the same thing that everybody else is going to get, right? Like, so there is a strategy to how you use the lineup optimizer. Go through the tutorials. It is the only lineup optimizer that I use. And, you know, I think it's great. You know, Kevin and his team in, I don't know where they are, Bulgaria. They put a lot of time into developing the code.
They're in Ukraine.
They're in Ukraine. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So is our office support for my company. So,
yeah,
I just think, you know, like if you're going to mass entry, just make sure that you use the lineup optimizer right. And the bottom line is, if you get what you want in terms of fighter percentages on the first run, you're doing something wrong. Like, it generally will take me 10, 15, 20 runs before I actually get the percentages, because I will always put in max and min percentages for each fighter that I want. And you're generally never going to get that on the first go through. I might have to go in and tweak the points, or, you know, do something to kind of, and then, you know, you settle. You ultimately end up settling. So that's my shout out to DFS Army.
I'm beaming with pride, son. I'm beaming with pride. Love to hear that you use the optimizer. And
the only one I use.
Yep. You know, one of the cool things we have, and you could do this too, son, is the back test feature. So when you're testing out your theories, your approaches to each card, and you should always do this after the card. You want to go back to, hey, what did I do? Did I win? Did I live? If I didn't take it down, what could I have changed? Who's that fighter that I went too light on? What if I raised my 10% guy to 20%? Would that have been enough? You know how you have a lean on some, but you're afraid to play too much. Maybe if I went a little heavier and that person won, would that have worked? So really important to back test as well, because that proves, even in hindsight, oh, okay, if I do this approach, or if I load up on one fighter or two fighters in a card, wow, I'm much more likely to hit the nuts. So make sure you're using the back test feature.
And the first thing you should do before you even start running your opto, uncheck the box, prioritize lineups being generated over percentages.
You're not a fan of that.
No, I don't. I shut that thing off, because again, I have certain percentages that I want. Right. I don't want just like randomly generated lineups if I can't get the percentages. I'd rather tweak my percentages. So the first thing, make sure you check that box off.
We have that in there because people don't want to play with it.
I know.
When you can't generate enough lineup, the reason it's there is because that will just, like, it's going to run all the way through. I don't care. Not a lot of people like to tweak. So
give yourself at least 45 minutes to run the lineup optimizer.
Love that. All right. And if you're not signed up at DFS Army, go get signed up today with promo code Sleeveless, and you get 10% off your VIP.
Yeah, man.
Get in there. You want that optimizer. All right. Next up, we have a fight. I'm excited for this one. Tony Ferguson taking on Michael Chandler. Chandler is a massive minus 345 favorite, and the comeback on Ferguson is plus 285. This fight is not going to decision. The fight ends. I mean, this is crazy. I'm going to be betting this. All right. Fight ends inside the distance, minus 165. I think that number is way too low. Way too low, Big Marley. Way too low. When does Michael Chandler fight out of the second round?
I got him winning a unanimous decision.
But he's gassed in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely might be. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. But if he's just laying on top of Ferguson, I don't think that's going to take a whole lot of energy away from him. Yeah. And it seems like Ferguson is fine just hanging out on bottom these days. So I'm just not sure how this fight's going to go. Like, if you give me Ferguson, you know, in the RDA fight, he's favored in this fight. But then we've seen on his last 3 fights that he just looks like a shell of his former self, taking a lot of damage over the years. It's just hard for me to think that old Ferguson's going to come back. And I don't want to invest a whole lot in him. However, I do think it's definitely dog or pass on the money line. Still too wide of a line at this point against a guy in Chandler who's not even completely proven in himself. Like, he had fight of the year last year, which boosted his stock more, but he lost it. His only UFC win is the Hooker fight where he got that early knockout. That's his path to a big win. Here's an early knockout. And I also think he could score well in a decision win just if he's wrestling the whole time. But, man, at $9,600, it's going to be hard to afford that. And even if he does score well, it doesn't mean he's going to be on the optimal lineup. Like last week, we had Romanov. We knew he was going to score well, but he didn't end up on the optimal lineup because he was the 7th highest scoring guy on the card. And I think that's similar here. I don't have a whole lot of interest in Chandler because I think he's going to win. He could score 100 points, but I don't think that'll be enough for the optimal lineup, which is what I'm chasing. So, this is mostly going to be a pass fight for me. Since I'm picking him to win, I don't want a whole lot of exposure on the Ferguson side either. And I do think that this is a big enough fight where it's going to gather a good amount of ownership. So my leverage will be just off the fight in general. I would say I have like a max 40% of it. I do want some exposure to both sides just in case. But give me Chandler to win all 3 rounds, put up like 90 points, something like that.
Man, I don't know. Chandler, 3 rounds? 3 rounds? Here's the thing. Ferguson's last 3 opponents, and I know he hasn't looked good, but against Gaethje, Oliveira, and Dariush, I mean, who's looking good against those guys? No one. Maybe Chandler. I don't know. But I feel like we're harshly judging Ferguson for a killer, group of opponents over his last 3. SunTszu, what do you think? How do you see this one going down?
Well, first of all, there's only a 2-year age difference, right? Like El Kikuyi is only 2 years older than Chandler. And look, Chandler is an action fighter, but he took a hellacious beating from Gaethje. He was finished in the second round by Chucky Olives. Oliveira missed weight again. Ooh, wow. Only Justin can win the title. Wow.
I don't know that means the title is vacated.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, he can't leave with the title.
He cannot leave with the title?
Well, he already has it.
If he wins the title, I don't know how that works. If he wins,
this seems opposite. It seems like Justin can't win the title now.
Yeah, it almost seems. Well, no, I
think he can.
Justin can for sure.
I think. So what does this mean? Oh man,
it's been a while since I've seen this situation.
Well, I mean, like Oliveira's, frequently missed weight, but you think for a fight this big, he would have been on point with weight. Wow. Justin wins, he gets the title.
And if Oliveira wins, it remains vacant.
That's odd.
That seems weird. No, I think he'd probably keep it. I think it's just one of these things where Justin can win the title.
So now
maybe they have to vacate it.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
So what does that do to strategy? We're gonna have to rethink that.
I don't even know. I don't know what to make of this. I'm not changing anything. I'm ignoring.
There is no title for Oliveira. It's vacated.
Ignore.
Well, I don't have any lineups done yet, so it's like not like I have to do anything.
Ignore this.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to Tony. So
yeah,
Tony does look a little diminished, right? However, this would seemingly be a decent fight for him, if it's kept standing. And we have not seen Chandler fight more than 7.5 minutes, really, without, diminishing returns. And give Tony one thing. He doesn't seem to get tired. Like his workout regimes are legendary. I would not be surprised if like his workouts actually affected the longevity of his career with what this guy freaking does. His workouts are insane. I don't know if anyone of sound mind and will would recommend doing the types of workouts that Tony does, but he's going to be in shape. He's going to have cardio. The question is, can he last 7.5 minutes? And because he's 6.6K on 6.7K.
Yeah, so cheap.
On DraftKings, I got to take a couple shots at that price. Now, I think Chandler is prohibitive at 9.6. Yeah, he could, maybe get that flash knockdown in the first, and pop 125 in the first minute. I don't know, man. I'm probably going to be underweight. I don't know what the ownership is going to be yet. I'll probably be underweight to Chandler at 9.6.
Big Marl, while we're talking, what do we have for the ownership on Ferguson?
I put a little north of 10%, somewhere in between 10 and 15.
Yeah, it's always low. Okay. It's always low.
And what about Chandler?
Chandler, I put like right around 30.
Okay. Yeah, I mean 30. I would have thought. Well, yeah, there's a lot of options up there.
Yeah, 15 fights on the card. We haven't had that in a long time.
So yeah, maybe I'll be on market. I don't know. I mean, I always have a strange feeling with a Chandler fight because one, again, that beating with like what effect did that beating? I mean, he said he was going to take time off. What effect did that beating have that he took from Gaethje? I mean, and then prior to that, getting finished by Chucky Olives. I mean, when was his only win in the UFC against Dan Hooker? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay.
I think. Listen, Chandler's very unproven. He did wiggle Oliveira, like he got him wobbly in that first fight, but he does what Chandler seems to always do, which is then he gasses out in the second, and Oliveira easily takes it over. I'm telling you right now that I don't care what ends up happening. Ferguson is a good bet in this spot. You're giving me 3-1 odds on a guy who has epic or historically epic cardio. He's got durability, even though he gets hit a lot. He's been a durable fighter for his career. I get it. He's getting older, whatever, right? He's gone up against a killer trio of a murderer's row in his last 3 opponents of guys that would destroy anyone. Those were like, everybody looks bad against Gaethje. Everybody looks bad against Dumont, and everybody looks bad against who the hell's the third guy? I can't remember. Dariush. These guys are really, really good. So I think the first mental adjustment we have to make, all right, Ferguson's not a top 5 guy maybe anymore. Maybe he's a top 10 guy. Maybe Michael Chandler's a top 10 guy too, but why am I getting 3-1 odds here? I think this is closer to, I don't know, 60-40 that Chandler wins, but there's a very clear, Marley, you and I were talking about this. There's a clear path to how Tony Ferguson wins this fight. It involves Chandler gassing in the second round.
I mean, honestly, Tony can win by any method. He can win by knockout. He can win by submission.
Get
and
a
he can
sub
win
in there. Yeah, throw a guillotine up on one of these takedowns. So Ferguson's got a real path to a win. I don't bet minus 345 on guys who have a real path to losing the fight. That is not a long-term good strategy for betting on MMA. You're going to lose your money like that. So for me, go ahead.
Joe mentioned, I mean, we don't know what kind of, that beating from Gaethje is going to do to Chandler. Ferguson changed after that Gaethje beating. So like, that's when he fell off. And so maybe now is the fall off for Chandler, who knows? But I mean, just looking at that guy in the gym, he's just a physical freak. So he's going to have his advantages here, but yeah, he might be a different guy. His chin might not be there. So yeah, definitely dog or pass if you're going to bet this fight. And I'd say there's still value on Ferguson. The line has come down a little bit.
And the other component I would throw in, and this is something I talk about a lot, there's a psychology, Joe, on DraftKings, where when the user sees a fighter priced below 7K, they're very hesitant to click the button because there's this thought that guy must be a fucking turd, right? Yep. Like, he must suck ass if he's that. That's why I asked the ownership. Like, Tony Ferguson's only 10% owned. If this fight was 8,400, 7,700, Ferguson would be like 35% on, even if the odds were the same. That's how much that affects psychology. It's weird. It's weird, but I see it. The phenomenon continues. So I like Ferguson. I like him on DraftKings. I don't win or lose. Process is king. And give me Ferguson, man. This guy's a good fighter who we love, who scored big in a lot of his wins on DraftKings in the past, coming off a string of rough fights. Don't care. He's going up against the gasser. Everything about this one screams you got to take some shots on the end. Don't know if they're going to win. I will bet Tony as well. And you can actually hedge that bet with like a Chandler first round finish kind of thing. But I'm not going to do that. Not for this one. But, that is hedgeable.
Gentlemen, breaking news here from Bleacher Report. Here's the scenario for tomorrow night's main event. Should Charles Oliveira win, the UFC lightweight championship will remain vacant. Should Justin Gaethje win, he will be crowned the new undisputed UFC lightweight champion. This is from Bleacher Report.
There it is. So there we have it. Vacated title, which just means more Dumont getting his title back after he wins this fight. Maybe.
I mean, you have to wonder psychologically, though, how hard is he going to? Do we know how badly he missed weight? I mean, does that?
It's half a pound.
Oh, is that it? Oh, Jesus, that's the worst. I'd rather have him miss it by 5 pounds, than a half a pound.
No, he tried.
Psychologically is where it hurts him the most. Like, knowing he's not going to get that belt if he wins, and it looks like money's already starting to come in on Gaethje.
Wow, I could see that
because you're trying. Yeah, they're a little movement. So because you're trying hard. All right, we've done 3 in-depth breakdowns. Let's start to run through the rest of these boys. This is a big card, 15 fights. Next up, and this is a stinker between Ovince St. Preux and Shogun Rua. OSP minus 245. Come back on Rua plus 205. SunTszu, these guys are old, man. They're old and they're washed. Well, I don't know why they're fighting on this card. Maybe it's a retirement fight. I don't even know what to make of this one, but OSP did put a whooping on Shogun years ago in a very brief fight that they did have. And I don't know. Any thoughts here?
Has OSP weighed in?
No, I don't know.
Because I mean, I would not be surprised if he missed weight here. He took his last fight at
Yeah, I think he
heavyweight.
did.
No?
Yeah, it's a bad sign
I
when
think
these
he
guys
made it.
start to take fights at heavyweight and
Yeah.
they just don't want to.
I mean, I don't know, unless it's just throwing a bone to Shogun. I don't really understand why this fight was made. You've got really two fighters going nowhere here. I guess I'll go with OSP. I don't know if it's DraftKings playable, this fight. I'm curious to see. And in all honesty, I haven't thought about this fight all that much. So, Marley, if you've got anything more to offer, please offer it.
There's not much to think about there. Big Marl, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to play it because I expect a knockout or a finish early in the fight.
Okay.
It's so that both guys are just fades, so that one of them is probably going to go down. OSP's already knocked him out in the first round before. I don't really see any reason that this is going to be different when Shogun is the one who looks more faded at this point. We also haven't seen him in a while. I think OSP has the striking edge, the grappling edge, the wrestling edge. So I am going to lean with OSP to get the first round knockout. But yeah, if this fight goes to a decision, then neither one of them is going to score enough for the optimal lineup. So if you don't see a knockout happening, then you can get away from it. I just unfortunately think that we have to target this fight, and I'll be really much heavier on the OSP side. I'm not too interested in Hua, maybe like a 10% max kind of thing, but I'm okay setting my max at like 50% OSP and just like getting whatever the DS gives me.
Yeah, I mean, OSP solo volume, 3 strikes per minute, under 3, 2.5 strikes per minute. His only win, his only way to the nuts is that early finish. It's got to be a first rounder, especially his price. I'm pretty comfortable fading both guys here. I don't see Shogun knocking out OSP at all, and so there's not enough points going to be scored in a striking-based decision. I'm full fading Shogun, to be clear. And with OSP, I just want that little bit of, yeah, he knocked him out fast once before. It could happen again. I want that little bit of exposure for that situation. So again, max of 10% sounds about right for me for OSP. Just that first round knockout, it's in play because he's fighting against a 40-year-old man who's completely washed. The problem is he's also an old man that's washed. So if it goes past the first round, you're going to be talking about one guy has landed 13 strikes, the other one 11 in the first round, no other scoring. You're going to be looking at your DraftKings screen like, oh, I've got a 6.5 from the guy who's winning. Like, this is not what you want. This doesn't score well. It has to be a first round finish, fade, or just a little bit of OSP. I'm full fading Shogun here.
Minus 225 that the fight ends early, though, and then OSP inside the distance, minus 110. I don't know. He's one of my favorite 9K plays on the slate. Actually.
Really?
I'd rather have him and $400 rather than Chandler.
Okay, I need to look at this.
He's got to finish fast, Big Marley. He's got to finish it.
These guys have fought one time before.
I know he's done it.
At finishing fast.
I only want it up to like, what are the possibility of him finishing fast? But you're right. Yeah, he's a big puncher, and the other guy's old and fucking washed. But one of the reasons why you don't have to load up on this fight is because of this next card. This next fight, Donald Cowboy Cerrone taking on Joe Lauzon. Cowboy, I like this because they're both in the same kind of like, they're in the the seniors division. More seniors fights. You know, I don't like it when a senior takes on a young guy. That always seems unfair. But here's a couple of seniors, right? Cowboy minus 185. Lauzon plus 160. Fight ends inside the distance minus 225. What do I need OSP and his 2 strikes per minute when I can get Cowboy for cheaper with better inside the distance odds?
Same inside the distance odds.
Minus 225. Oh, it's the same? Oh, all right. Same, but at least Cowboy's active until he gets the finish and he's doing stuff. So I totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. This fight, even if it goes to decision, you could get a nuts in it.
Also rather have this fight if I'm choosing between the two, but I think I get OSP and Cowboy in the same lineup. Maybe
that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite fights on the card, just because I do think it's more likely to end inside the distance. On the Lauzon side, I think he has to get a first round knockout to win this fight. That's really his only path in my eyes. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it's going to favor Cowboy, and I think it's just going to be like domination the longer it goes as well. I think he finishes them in rounds 2 or rounds 3 if he doesn't even get a first round finish of his own. But I just think that the one path for Joe Low is first round knockout. So I put I don't remember if it's 10 or 20 bucks. I put that on plus 1,400 TKO in round 1 on Joe Lauzon. So that'll be my hedge. And Cowboy Cerrone will be in my single entry lineup. I've only built a single entry so far, so I don't know like what these two are going to look like if I'm doing 150. But I probably want this fight in like 3/4 of my total lineups. And I would guess that that's like 50% Cowboy, 25% Joe Lauzon, because the winner's going to score well. And I just have a hard time seeing the winner not score well in this type of fight. Joe Lauzon's a really smart fighter. He's already said that he wants to blitz Cowboy from the start. And if he wins, he's going to be on the optimal lineup, 100+ points. And he's even live for that 60-second slate breaking knockout as well. But yeah, if he doesn't get that in the first 2 or 3 minutes, I think he's in trouble. Yeah. So give me Cowboy.
And Lauzon's not been that much of a finisher throughout his career either. I mean, he's got a couple of those.
Yeah, his last fight, well, he was on like a 5 or 6 fight skid before his last fight, but his last fight was against Jonathan Pierce, who's looked amazing, and he put him away in the first round. So it's like easy to see the knockout happening in your head, but I also think that the ownership is going to easily come with that as well, with people fading Cowboy. But I'm definitely not fading Cowboy. This guy's got 23 on his fight log on DraftKings, 23 fights with at least 90 DraftKings points. Give me that in this fight. I'm taking it.
Yeah, you like that on DraftKings. SunTszu, you got to lean on this one?
Okay, so there's a little bit of narrative around that Pierce finish. That was in Boston. I was actually at that fight with our good friend Mike Brown, H3 Buddha.
Shout out.
And he knocked out Pierce. I mean, it was a very emotional fight. A lot of Boston-based fighters won on that card. Lauzon has a gym. He coaches. Look, I'm not going to say he didn't train for this fight because I'm sure he did. Both of these guys are bonus hunters, and they collected a fair amount of bonuses between the two of them. I think at this stage in my career, if we're calling this a quasi-legends fight, I just see Cowboy as having a bit more left in the tank here, a bit more active as a fighter. I hadn't really thought about him in a single entry, but I could kind of see the appeal. So I'll go with Cowboy here.
Yeah, I mean, Cowboy's straight up a better fighter than Joe Lauzon. Like, he has a better career.
Yes.
He's better wins. He's more skilled everywhere. I would say he's a better striker and a better grappler, all things being equal. But, of course, there's age and durability concerns on both sides. So you can never feel super confident with either guy because it's like, yeah, Joe Lauzon, sure, he gasses after like 3 minutes, but Cowboy's freaking durability concerns, man. He got knocked out by some shoulder twitches.
I should also say he's going to be in my single entry because I'm biased.
You're a big Cowboy fan.
If I win $200,000, I'm going to have like a poster of my winning lineup down in the basement, and I have to have Cowboy on it. Like, it can't be from a card that Cowboy's on and his face not be there. No, so I'm just biased.
You got to get it. Two of your favorites. If Julio Jones was on this card,
right, he would have the trifecta. Sure be in there with Oliveira and
Oliveira. We got Oliveira. We got Cowboy, and all we need is Julio. And we'd have a trifecta of Big Marley's favorites. Yeah, I like Cowboy here. I agree with you. You could slap some Joe Lauzon in there just in case, because Cowboy's very durability concerns. But, the skills are on Oliveira's side. And I think he's got maybe a little more in the tank. Again, the Cowboy's been fighting decent opponents. Not great, but decent opponent. Man, he just keeps losing. But nonetheless, I mean, decent opponents. And I have to say, Joe Lauzon's been losing to like not that good opponents outside of the Pierce loss. So give me Cowboy as the better fighter. But, keep in mind, there are some durability concerns. All right, next up, we have got Randy Brown taking on Chaos Williams. Close fight, almost pick 'em odds. Randy Brown minus 105. Chaos Williams minus 115. Fight ends inside the distance, minus 160. I do have a bet on this fight, but I'm going to throw it over to you to start, SunTszu. Randy Brown, Chaos Williams, special guest SunTszu. How do you see it going down?
Rude boy. I was on Randy Brown when he made his debut way back, right? He was a New York fighter. I did quite a bit of film on him. I thought he would perform well. I did not know that he would have, this long a career. I thought he had a capped upside. Chaos Williams, we know what Chaos Williams brings to the table. He is, he tries to finish. I think Brown is probably a bit more well-rounded. Brown also is infamous for having been KO'd from Nico Price while he was on top of him on the ground, which is kind of interesting. Wow. I think that Chaos has got the better chance at a finish. Randy Brown, if he wins, will win by decision. On this type of slate, I don't know that you're going to get the scoring you need out of Randy Brown. So just as it relates to DraftKings, I would go with Chaos Williams here.
That's fair. Big Marley, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I would agree. I think Chaos is the one who has the 100-point upside, higher ceiling in this fight with his one-punch power. And that's really going to be any Chaos fight. He's always in play for a one-punch knockout. But I think that's his only edge in this fight. I don't see why he's the favorite other than that knockout power. I think Randy Brown's the better overall striker, the faster, taller, longer guy who's a better wrestler, better grappler. So I bet Randy Brown at plus 115. He was my first bet on this card. And I think he should be the favorite. So I think there's still value at the line right now on any book, really. But yeah, the knockout punch is a big time worry. Like seeing him get knocked
I'm
out
going to give you
control.
since I bet the same thing, I'm going to give you my little extra bonus thing that I did to give myself the confidence to go heavier on Randy Brown than I normally would have. You can get Chaos first round knockout at plus 450. So if you want to just get that little, because what you just said, I totally agree with. How does Chaos win this fight? He knocks Randy Brown out in the first round because he's going to slow. He's one of these muscly Alonzo Menefield types that after the first round is just less dangerous, right? The big muscled fighter. Randy Brown essentially better everywhere in terms of the skills and much better as a grappler. By the way, no one's talking. We have not seen much of Chaos on his back, but when he's been put on his back, it hasn't looked very good. So for me, it's either going to, I added in a little hedge there. I took a big bet on Randy Brown, but I hedged it at plus 450 odds of a first round finish from Chaos. I had to pay about 30% of the amount I'm betting for the hedge. So $100 bet, let's say a 1-unit bet, you'd have to bet 0.3 on the first round finish in order to get that hedge going, or 0.25. So I like that little bit of hedge. Gives me the comfort, give me the warm feelings inside. I don't see Chaos. I mean, he could win a decision. Anything can happen.
You can be real pissed if he gets knocked out in rounds 2 or rounds 3.
Oh yeah, it would suck. It would suck. But what are you going to do? You can't. I can hedge the whole thing, but then you're making no money, right? So
Yeah.
you don't want to do that.
I'm not hedging, and
I just think a little bit. Just
even if the line flips, I'm still not going to hedge or buy out. I actually wish I put more at the 115 than I did, but it's still my biggest play on the card. Give me Randy Brown by winning all 3 rounds on the scorecards.
Yeah, no, I love it.
I agree with Joe that I don't think he scores too well on DraftKings, so I probably more so get away from this fight. But I do want some Randy Brown exposure. He's an underdog. I'm picking to win. I think he can put up more than 10x here, but I'd be pretty surprised to see him finish Chaos. So I don't see 100-point upside from him.
A lot of it depends on how much grappling Randy Brown chooses to use. I've seen him get takedowns, and he's not bad. And he's not bad from top position at all. We saw it with Nico Price, even though he got himself knocked out, as SunTszu reminded us. But from the unusual hammer fist from bottom position knockout. But Chaos is really bad off his back. 50% takedown defense. The numbers are not good stylistically for Chaos. And I think he hits hard enough that it will inspire Randy Brown to go for takedowns. Whereas maybe he was a little hubrisy in the past, saying, no, I'll beat this guy striking, when he's actually taken some losses in the past doing that. So, yeah, I'm all about Randy Brown here. So we all seem to agree. And Chaos is live for that first round finish. Like I said, I hedge mine, but that is good for DraftKings. And I think I probably like him a little more on DraftKings simply because I think his path to the win should involve more grappling than he normally has in fights. So he would have to step up and surprise us a little bit with a little more grappling than we're used to. All right. Next up, we've got Francisco Trinaldo taking on Danny Roberts. And this one's pretty much a pick on Big Marley. Trinaldo minus 115. and 105 for Danny Roberts, who's slightly less favored. Fight goes the distance, minus 145. And here we've got two very low volume strikers, Big Marley, that will not go for takedowns for the most part, or they won't go for a lot of them. And they both tend not to score very well on DraftKings. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, Trinaldo probably should be going for, a takedown or two here. I think he can maybe change the judge's eyes if he's able to spend some time in top control, because I do think Roberts is the better striker, much younger. Trinaldo's just a full fade for me. I think we probably need a knockout from either side for them to be on the optimal lineup, but I just think it's much more likely to come from Roberts, who's just younger, looking better at this stage in his career. I mean, Trinaldo's 43 years old. Just it's hard for me to want to pick anyone at 155, 170 pounds when they're that old. And he's up to 170 now because he can't make that cut anymore. He hadn't landed 40 significant strikes in his last 3 fights. He hasn't finished a fight before round 3 in like 6 years. So Trinaldo's going to be a full fade for me. I'm going to X him out of my player pool. And then Roberts is a guy where I'm okay with some exposure, but at the same time, if he doesn't get a knockout, he's probably not even getting 10X here. So maybe a 15% max type thing on the DS, but I'm going to pick Roberts to get maybe a TKO at some point, like a second or third round TKO after Trinaldo slows down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm down with that fade. What say you, SunTszu?
Yeah, on mute.
Unmute it.
Sorry, guys.
There he is.
Massaranduba, I mean, admire the guy, right? He, even at his age, he still hits hard. I'm a little concerned about Roberts' chin. He has looked better in his last 2 fights. I think that was a surprising victory last out. I don't know, man. Like, I have a mental image of Massaranduba connecting and Roberts just dropping.
That's just because that happens to Roberts all the time.
I know, and that's my issue here. I mean, obviously GPP only for this fight, and I do agree that if Massaranduba wins and it's not by knockout, it's going to be a pretty low-scoring affair. However, like, wouldn't it be just the balls if he clips Roberts inside the first minute, scores 125 points, and breaks the motherfucking slate? I mean, like, I have seen stranger things happen. There's been a bit of a renaissance for like 40-year-old fighters. I mean, even though Arlo shouldn't have got the victory, he did.
No, that was a fake.
You had Olenek. I mean, this guy. I mean, I think Cody Safrick. No, who said it? I think Uncle Weezy. Like, this guy is 68. He's not really 43. Like, who knows how old he is, right? I don't know, man. Like, I don't have any issue playing Danny Roberts. I think I'll have a couple of shares of Massaranduba just in case that really weird shit happens and he just clips Roberts with something and Roberts drops. Give me Roberts for the fight. No, the hell with it. I'm going to go with the 43-year-old. Give me Massaranduba. Obviously, it's not a fight that I've only built a handful of lineups, so I'm not sure where my ownership is going to lie. But, I do see him being able to drop Roberts, and, I don't know that Roberts could actually finish Massaranduba. So I think to Marley's point, if he doesn't get the finish, I don't know how he could be optimal even at 8K. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a huge endorser of this fight, but I'll pick Massaranduba. I'll take a few shots each side. I don't expect to have a lot of ownership.
Yeah, I'm just going to add in. I'm just going to full fade Trinaldo. He doesn't do anything that scores well, and I don't see him landing that knockout that you're referring to in the first round. He doesn't even throw enough to land a knockout blow in the first minute. Like, it's one of those 3 strikes that he throws in the first 60 seconds. Like, it's just going to be really tough for this guy to get there. He is a, to quote Shaq, he is a weasel and he figures out ways to win these fights. Trinaldo does. He just keeps winning fights, but he lands very few strikes, 1 takedown. He just finds a way to win those 2 rounds. I don't know how he does it, but I think that's going to end here. I think Hot Chocolate he'll get the win. Anytime you're up against a 44-year-old man in Roberts, you have to have some exposure because that older gentleman just might not have the durability, even though we've seen no sign of that. So if I need exposure to this fight at all, it'll be a little bit of Roberts, just a little bit. But Roberts is just like Trinaldo. He doesn't do anything that really scores well outside of an early finish. And, he could get that because, again, his opponent is old. and they're both going to be striking. I don't see a lot of grappling happening here, but this is a very fadeable fight, or only in the largest of GPPs would I get a little sniff of some Roberts exposure. All right, next up, we've got Norma Dumont taking on Macy Chasson, with Dumont coming in as a plus 230 favorite and Chasson sitting at plus 190. You know, there's somebody who comes in, by the way, every week and has a correction to my pronunciations of the fighters' names. And there's always one. And like in the comments that will happen after this goes live, somebody will be like, it's Leviosa, not Leviosa. You know, like they'll just correct it, which I appreciate. I'm like, oh shit, that's how you say that one? Macy Chasson. I practice. She's from, you know, a little French sounding name for Macy here. Fight ends inside the distance, plus 165. Goes to decision, minus 205. So not looking like we're going to get a whole lot of, or an early finish here, but SunTszu, this is your area. Women's MMA, the Lady Whisperer. Maybe not studied at these two as much as Cortez and Gatto, but still well studied on these fighters. What do you say?
Yeah. So first of all, this is at 145, correct? I believe.
Yes, 145.
Large. Chasson is going up to 145 for this. She fought their last fight, I believe, at 135. Look, I don't think much of Dumont. I kind of see this as a dog or pass type of situation. You know, extremely attractive salary on DraftKings for Chasson. I just don't think these, like, again, despite having one Ultimate Fighter, you know, at 145, you know, she makes a lot of mistakes. Now, she trains at a decent camp, Chasson, but she makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, you know, Dumont got nuked by Megan Anderson. Okay, I get it. You know, she then turned around and muscled Godinez, right? Godinez went up a weight class and then muscled.
Hard to believe, by the way, anybody good. I'm sorry. It's hard to believe anybody who's actually good could lose to Megan Anderson. It's like, it's hard for me to accept this because my MMA math is just, Anderson is just like, what? And then you beat Aspen Ladd. Like,
okay, so she lost to Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson, I once had a baseball scout tell me when I asked him about a hitter, like, oh yeah, he's a great hitter. He can hit slow fastballs when he's ahead in the count. Like, I think that's like Megan Anderson, right? She can hit, like, there are fighters that she can beat, and she's just a massive individual, and she can never cut down to 135, so she's kind of stuck in a dead weight class. But anyway, to me, this is dog or pass, right? I don't know that I'm going to have a whole lot of this fight, but because of the price point on Chasson, I'll take a few shares of hers. I don't expect to have much of Dumont because I don't think Dumont's going to be able to finish Macy. So to me, it's dog or pass. I'll have a few shares of Chasson just because of the price point on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Big Marley, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I think we probably get 3 rounds here. I do favor Dumont because I think she can get a takedown and just hang out in top control. Like, just seeing Lena Landsberg be able to do that against Chasson is just a bad look. And Norma is a strong girl. She should be the bigger, stronger girl here. And I just have a hard time seeing Chasson do much off her back and get up if that's the case. So I think Dumont's live to get a couple takedowns here, maybe get 5-10 minutes of top control time. So I'm going to pick her to get the win, probably win all 3 rounds here. But she's $9,100 on DraftKings. She's only got the one fight against Ashley Evans Smith where she would have paid that off. She scored 103 points in that fight, but that also included a knockdown. So if she didn't get the knockdown, then we're at 93 points. I don't know that gets it done at $9,100. And then she's coming off a 5-round win over Aspen Ladd where she only scored 74 points. So I think Dumont really just makes sense as an ownership play. I don't think anyone will be on her. So maybe take a shot, hope that she can rack up takedowns, score well in a decision. But Chasson is the one who I think has the higher upside as an underdog. She has never scored less than her $7,100 salary, less than 10x that $7,100 salary. 75 is her lowest in a win, and she has 4 wins that are over 100 DraftKings points. So, I mean, if she could do that in this fight, she's going to be on the nuts. I don't really see that happening here, but I do think she can be the better striker here and win a striking decision, maybe land a takedown or so of her own. And she is the one that probably does put up more than 10x if she wins a decision, where Dumont, it's going to be hard for her to do that. So I probably just mostly avoid this fight, maybe sprinkle in both sides and some MME, but I'm going to take Dumont to win all 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's dog or pass for me on DraftKings. Dumont just doesn't score enough to justify 9,100. And there's a lot of great fighters you want to pay for on this card that are priced up there. And I think people are forgetting with Macy that she is a big hitter. She's got some power, and she is one of the female fighters at 145 that has finished opponents. And, you know, I'll keep her alive for it, even though I think Dumont should be able to take her down and control her. It's dog or pass for me on DraftKings for sure. Dumont, pretty full fadeable. Macy, somebody who will throw in the mix, but
Dumont missed weight too, by the way, by a pound and a half.
How do you miss weight at 145? Like, what the hell?
145, wow.
I mean, she's 5'7". Macy's 5'11". Like, this is a size differential too, and like you're missing weight. What the hell? That's interesting, but nonetheless, yeah, it's dog or pass for me, Macy. I'm just not a big believer that Norma Dumont is this amazing fighter anyway, and she just doesn't score enough in her wins to be relevant. So yeah, totally on board with what you guys said. All right, next up we've got Brandon Royval taking on Matt Schnell. Royval, a significant minus 240 favorite. Comeback on Schnell is plus 220, and the fight goes the distance prop is plus 150. So wow, fight ends inside the distance minus 180. I'm a little surprised. I was about to read it backwards because I'm a little surprised at this number. So the odds are reflecting a minus 180, a 2-to-1 odds that this fight will end inside the distance. I'm already surprised, Big Marley. So now I'm just a mess. So how do you see this one going down?
I kind of like both sides of this fight. Royval, well, I guess the Schnell side, I like him because he's an underdog that I'm going to pick to win here. I think if he can keep this fight on the feet for the most part and stay conscious, I think he's a live dog here. I just see this being a close split decision type of fight if it does go the distance, and I like Schnell's movement. I like his jab. I like his overall striking, so I think he can win a 3-round fight here. But I don't see Schnell putting up a high score unless he can get a submission. I feel like a submission's the only path to like 90-plus points for Schnell. And if he does win a decision, it's still probably not even 10x his $6,900 salary. So I don't love him on DraftKings, but I like that he lets me afford the top range of fighters if I want them. And then on the Royval side, I think he's the one with the ceiling. He can finish this fight anywhere. Good grappler, comes out of the gates hot, which could be bad for Schnell. And Schnell has a chin issue that Royval could test here. So I think not only is he probably the more powerful striker, but he's the more durable striker as well. And that could help him maybe get a first-round knockout. So I think Royval's in play for 100-plus points in this one. I do like him, even though I'm picking against him. I'll get some exposure there. But I don't love any of the 9K fighters, so I'll just kind of be mixing them in here and there. And I'd rather get guys like Dubronx and Cowboy for less, and then just whatever fits in that range kind of thing. So if I have $9,300 left, I'm cool with Royval being there still. But I'm going to take Schnell to win a split decision.
I like it. An underdog win pick from Big Marley right there. What do you say, SunTszu?
Well, neither one of these fighters are prolific scorers. If you look at Royale's 5 fights, he's only scored north of 61 time. And that's in 3 wins. He scored north of 60 points 1 time. Schnell has only scored 100 points once.
He scored 62, 111, and 91 in his 3 wins.
Who? Royval?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did have a 100-pointer against Kaikara.
Oh, God. Sorry. I saw that as a 6 and not a 9. I stand corrected, Big Marley. You're absolutely correct. He scored 91 against Tim Elliott and then 111. And then his last 3 fights, 2 losses, he scored 8, 14, and then 62 in a fight against Bontarin. Okay, I stand corrected.
The Bontarin one is concerning, though, because that's kind of like, oh, this is a guy that could score 62 in a win. That's not.
I think this line is pretty wide. Like, I wish he had more of a takedown game, in all honesty. At this weight class, I would like to see more takedowns, get some more grappling points. I have to say, it's kind of interesting. What impressed me a little bit about Matt Danger Schnell is, he landed 113 strikes in a loss against Bontorin. Now, he only scored, 36 points, and it was a loss, and he was priced up. So it wasn't a great performance from that respect. But now he's $2,000 less at 6.9K. I think this line is too wide. I get it. The quality of the competition. They both have fights against Bontorin, but I guess they both have losses against Pantoja. Not sure what Tyson Nam is doing, which was his last win, or Espinosa or Smoke. I believe they're all out of the UFC. I don't see myself getting to Brandon Royval too much, and that could be a potential mistake. If I was playing the extra 50 lineups, which I'm not this week, maybe I'd have more shares. I'll have a few shares of Schnell because, to Marley's point, it really helps in lineup construction, especially for GPPs, which I see this as a GPP fight. Not I would not touch this fight in cash. So I'll be underweight to Brandon Royval. I'll be probably at market to Schnell. And if you're asking me to pick a winner, I'll probably pick Brandon Royval.
Yeah, this is a pretty favorable fight for me. I totally agree. It's hard to pay for Royval. Big Marley picking Schnell to win. That's enough reason to play some Schnell. So, in general, I don't have a bet on this fight. I didn't bet it at all. I don't really like the volume that Royval puts out. I think he's got the skills. He's just got to go for takedowns, as you said, SunTszu, a lot more than he does. He might do it here. Neither guy has good takedown defense. It's kind of weird when you look at their stats. I mean, 50% and 39% takedown. They don't even bother trying to stop takedowns. Let me put this on screen so you can see it. They don't even bother to stop. And the volume's very low for Royval, 3 strikes per minute. So there are some concerns here statistically, just in terms of just the volume for Royval, the lack of going for a lot of takedowns, even though he's very good when he tries to get one. But he does have it in his arsenal. And in the end of the day, I do favor Royval to get the job done. But as a DraftKings play, I would lean Matt Schnell simply because he's cheap. And if he does get a win, he's more likely to be paying off that salary than Royval, who's got wins where he only scored 62 fantasy points. All right, next up, we've got Blagoy Ivanov taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima, with Ivanov coming in at -150 and Rogerio de Lima +140. The fight goes to decision. This is surprising too, man. This is surprising me. Fight ends inside the distance, -180. This is surprising. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's surprising. It's surprising because Ivanov always goes to decision, but in a sense, it's not surprising because Rogerio de Lima essentially never fights beyond the second round. So we've got a clash of styles here. And Big Marley, on the one hand, we've got Blagoy, who has wins and split decisions against some of the top fighters in MMA, heavyweight division. Split against Derek Lewis. Split, I believe he went to split decision against Junior Dos Santos, if I'm not mistaken. Blagoy Ivanov has held his own with some of the best heavyweight fighters. Oh, it was Augusto Sakai, yeah, and Derek Lewis. And he's got a win against Tai Tuivasa, who is essentially now going to be fighting for the championship very soon. That Blagoy has a win over that guy. He's taking on Rogerio de Lima, who doesn't have any notable wins, unless you want to call the version of Ben Rothwell we saw in 2022 like notable. All right. Maurice Green loses to everybody. Ben Sosley, not an MMA fighter. Adam was just a bunch of scrubs, right? So clash of styles. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I bet Blagoy Ivanov in this fight already because we're getting a real fighter with takedowns against a fighter who has early knockout potential. But Blagoy is one of the most durable heavyweight fighters we've ever seen. Again, lasted 3 rounds with Black Beast Lewis. Who's done that? Not many. So Big Marley, did I throw my money away on my big Blagoy position at the sportsbook?
No, I don't think so. I
hope
was
not, 'cause
looking for a
I
reason.
hope
to,
not, by the way, because I'll be wiped out if that one don't work. That was one of my bigger bets.
I was looking for a reason to pick Rogerio de Lima in this one, just because I just don't like Ivanov. I hate his volume. He just doesn't do enough work for me. He wastes too much time. He's not real dangerous in there. He's just okay everywhere, and that's all it takes to be decent in the heavyweight division. But this one's kind of like the OSP fight for me, where it's like minus 190 to end early, which makes me think we got to target it. But if it doesn't end early, that neither one, it doesn't matter who wins, most likely. I don't think either one of them is going to put up a score in a decision. I think Ivanov is more likely to put up a score in a decision just by landing takedowns, keeping top control against a gassed fighter. But he just doesn't do enough on the ground for him to put up like 100 plus points here. And I think if anyone's going to just blast the other one early and knock him out in the first round, that's more likely Rogerio de Lima. So I think they're both in play, but this is probably the lowest paced fight on the card. And I just want to get away from it. So I'll probably like put a max percent on 20%, like 20% or so on both sides, and then let the domination station, DFS Army's optimizer control what my percentages are for this fight. But I'm going to take Blagoy Ivanov to win probably 2 or 3 rounds on the scorecards.
SunTszu.
So Ivanov was also stabbed in the heart outside a nightclub in Bulgaria, and also beat Fedor in a Sambo championship. So this guy's got quite the pedigree. Now, Rogerio de Lima, like you look at him on the scale and he's ripped. He's a one-round fighter, man. Like, I don't see him taking down Ivanov. Now, the problem is I don't see that Ivanov has that killer instinct, like to kind of take advantage of a fading and a tired de Lima. So while I think the outcome is preordained, I really see this as more of a betting fight than a DraftKings fight. So I really do like your number. I really do like. I don't know why it's not higher. The number to me should seem higher. With that said, it's probably about right for DraftKings. But like, I don't know. Let's put it this way. Outside of de Lima getting a miraculous first round finish, I'd be very hard pressed to see either one of these guys or this fight on as part of the optimal, right? I just don't see it. I mean, you know, he doesn't really have the output. He doesn't seem to have that type of killer instinct. Maybe I'll be surprised, but you know, I think the first round it could get dangerous. But Ivanov has fought much better than friggin' Rogerio de Lima. Like, where does this number come from? I don't get it. I think you're onto something here, Kevin.
It didn't make sense to me.
Makes no sense to me.
This guy. All right, you know who I Rogerio de Lima is like that guy when you throw him in against the worst heavyweight. It's like, oh, this guy he's a guy that's going to lose to Andrei Arlovsky. Like he's that low level guy. And we're talking about a guy who just beat Tuivasa not long ago, who went to split against Lewis, who went to split against Augusto Sakai. Sakai would murder Rogerio de Lima in the first round. So I don't know the MMA math, and there's not, and Blagoy is never been knocked out, and the guy got as you said, stabbed in the heart, didn't give a fuck, right? Comes right back from that. He's like, yo, I'm going out to dinner. Like, bro, you're bleeding out your heart. Like, I don't give a fuck, right? He doesn't care. Okay, this guy doesn't get knocked out, doesn't give a fuck, and he's got takedowns. He has the ability to do what you need to do against 50% takedown defense, Rogerio de Lima, which is put him on his back, tire him out. The only thing is, you're right. Blagoy is not going to finish you in that spot, but maybe he will. Maybe this is the time. This is the worst guy that he's fought.
You want to be even more confused? On DraftKings Sportsbook, this line is now minus 150. So there's money coming in on de Lima. I'm going to bet this here in Vegas. I will tell you guys that I do have a small play with, after talking to you, Kevin, with Ivanov and Esparza inside the distance. And, you know, it's purely a leverage play. You know, it's 12-1, 12-1 payoff. I took it small, but
get Ferguson in there and get me 30-1.
Yeah.
Put Tony in it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Make that money, SunTszu.
So, but I am because DraftKings Sportsbook is not available in Las Vegas. This is something I'm going to bet at the window here at Red Rock. I'm going to, nice. And I only hope I get 150 because I may need to go I may need to go 1,500 on this to win 1,000.
I like it. So here, yes, I put a big bet on it. I like Lagoy. I love that SunTszu is making bets or writing down bets as we're going through this. Like he's like, yeah, I like that one. I
do. I really do. I didn't think about, honestly, it wasn't on my radar until you
this
told
fight
me
normally
about it.
wouldn't. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I was breaking down the fight the other night. I was smoking a little weed. I was like, hi, and I'm like going through the different scenarios of how the fight goes down in my mind, and I was like, none of them ended. Marley, we talked about it. None of those scenarios ended with Rogerio de Lima winning the fight. Every time I looked at it, and I yes, can he knock? But he's going up against a historically durable guy. So I'm like, how does he win this fight? This is a guy who can't fight past the first round. Like I couldn't find the path.
We haven't seen him in 2 years, so that's another worry for me.
Could be worse for both guys, though. I mean, have we seen Rogerio? Has he been fighting a lot lately? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him at least, but I just don't really know what to expect from Lagoy. But I don't know. I think it's definitely the rightful play. I just have a personal bias against him where I
You
wouldn't
just
want,
got that bias.
I don't like putting my money on him.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Next up on this card, we've got Andre Fialho taking on Cameron Van Camp with Fialho, who we just saw fight like last week, coming in at -410. Why is this guy fighting again? I don't know. He quick finish. He's like, I want to fight again. So they gave him another fight. Cameron Van Camp, plus 365 is the underdog. SunTszu, these are pretty obscure fighters. We did see Fialho recently, but Cameron Van Camp is a newcomer to the UFC, seems to always win by submission. Fialho always wins by knockout. Like both of these guys have a recent history of very fast finishes. This fight seems really interesting to target on DraftKings for fantasy purposes because it comes with a -270. Fight ends inside the distance prop. That's a very high number. I really like this fight on DraftKings. I really kind of love this fight on DraftKings. And Fialho makes for an interesting pivot off of the Chandlers and off of these other names, the Royvals, up there in the 9K. No one knows who this guy is. But I also like Van Camp because if he wins, he's winning by submission. He is. I'm betting. All right. So SunTszu, write this down. Write this down. Because not inside the distance, but Van Camp by submission, plus 685. Okay, we're not expecting to win a plus 685 bet, but if he's winning, that's how he's doing it. Plus 685 against a guy who had unproven on the mat. I'll take it. What say you, Big Marley? And then I'll go to you, SunTszu.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
You don't get excited from a bet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go bet it. But
plus 685. What? You don't have pizza money? You can't spare a slice of pizza, $10?
No, I like my pizza, man. I like my pizza.
Man.
But I do think that's his only ceiling. Van Camp's only ceiling, DraftKings wise, is the submission here. His only other path to a win would just be to tire out Fialho, I guess, and then maybe somehow take rounds 2 and rounds 3. But I like Fialho in this one. I think he gets a first round knockout. Fialho in round 1 is plus 130. That's the best on the card. So that's like 43% chance right there. I think that's a good amount of DraftKings lineups to have, like 40 to 50%. Fialho, he's probably my favorite play in the 9K range if salary doesn't matter. But also, if salary matters, I'd rather have Fialho and $100 rather than having Chandler. So it just kind of like the more I talk about it, the less Chandler I think I'm going to have. But yeah, give me Fialho. I want as much as I can afford, but if he doesn't get a first round knockout, he probably does not score enough to pay off that $9,500 price tag. So I would also want a maximum of him too, like no more than 50, 60%, something like that. But I probably end up right around that 45% range.
Listen, Fialho's a heavy favorite, and he's heavily favored to win inside the distance. You want exposure to that. All I'm saying is that if he ain't winning, it's because he's getting subbed. I don't know if this guy's takedown defense is any good. SunTszu, what do you know about Fialho? Is this a grappler?
No, I believe he's a kickboxer. I'm going to go back to my hitting, slow fastballs when he's ahead in the count. That would probably describe Van Camp's submission game. I mean, regional competition, even though the records don't look horrific, not super good competition. People are high on Fiorello at 9.5K. You're right. He's a great pivot off of Chandler. I expect to be exposed to him. It's a pretty quick turnaround, but it's also a pretty decent payday. Generally, when we've seen these, with the exception of one fight that we're going to talk about soon, generally when we've seen these quick turnarounds, it usually works out pretty well for the guy doing the quick turnaround. So I'm kind of there. I mean, that's what I like. I think it's a great pivot off of Chandler. He's not a household name. So like, I don't see the casual, plugging him in, looking at this guy and saying, oh, 9.5K, I could get Chandler at 9.6. I could spend.
They don't know who he is.
More. No, they don't. I could go under. I could get like these other guys.
Fialho minus 145 to win inside the distance. He's got good finish odds.
Yeah. How do you not include that in your lineups?
But let me throw something else out there though. Big deal. He knocked out Baeza. Who doesn't knock out Baeza?
True that.
Like Baeza, is he a fraud? Seems a little bit fraudulent. And by the way, it wasn't just but last week that this guy was a pretty hefty underdog against 2 weeks ago. He was an underdog and a big underdog against Baeza. So it's those factors. All of a sudden you get that finish against a guy who maybe seems a little chinny now, keeps getting knocked out, and now you're this massive favorite. I don't know. Yeah, I think both sides. This is borderline all in fight. I can't say all in fight, Big Marley. I can't say it, but this is I want a lot of it fight.
His $9,500 makes it not an all in fight.
Yeah, you can't load up on that side. But if Van Camp wins, he is in the nuts lineup. Like he is winning by submission. He's gonna cash SunTszu a plus 645 and me a plus 645 ticket. I got a lot of big ridiculous play. You only need one of those to hit. I got a few of those on this card with Tony and this. There's another fight. There's a few fights like that. Some crazy. And Big Marley, by the way, is on like a 11 card winning streak with his bets over at Big Marley MMA. 11 fights, 11 cards in a row.
This will be 11.
This is 11?
Yeah.
This will make 11.
Yep. Hopefully.
Fucking killer, man. Love that. All right. Next up, here it is, SunTszu. We got Tracy and Melissa. Cortez is coming in as a minus 135. Ooh, line's moving a little bit. Only a minus 135 favorite at this point. Lots of money coming in on Melissa Gatto. She's sitting here at plus 130, 125 at this point. Close odds. You're getting some pretty good juice on DraftKings to play Gatto. And the fight ends inside the distance. Prop is plus 150. So expectation is we will go to decision, 60% implied probability. Now, SunTszu, this is the one. What's going to happen? Tracy, Melissa, who's going to take this?
Okay, so first of all, this is the one and only Vaseline fight on the card. And what that means is that rather than putting Vaseline on the fighters, the corners are going to put Vaseline on each other.
Oh no.
That's what this type of fight is. So they're both fairly attractive, very attractive ladies, right? I am somewhat impressed with Melissa Gatto. Like she took this long time off, and I don't know where the hell she went. Like in what she did, but she came back and like her whole game seemed to be evolved. And, like Cortez is what she is. I mean, she won a split decision against a 19-year-old, Erin Blanchfield, who in my opinion is a future champion. Might have to wait for Val to retire for that to happen. But like, I don't know that her path in the UFC has been like overly taxing. And now that she's like part of the glamour duo of Ortez or I should say
Ortega,
Ortez,
yeah,
Ortez and Ortega, or Ortez. I mean, what's the new name? So I don't know, man. I mean, I want to have exposure to Gatto here. I think Tracy's a better wrestler and she's got grappling upside, but she's 8.7K. I don't know if she's guaranteed to score 100 points in a loss. I think this is probably her toughest test in the UFC. and I really like the evolving nature of Gatto's game. I mean, what is she? 24 years old?
She is now 26.
26. She's 26
but you're right.
years old.
And she had an impressive win against Carol Hossa, by the way. Let's not discount.
I mean, that is. I mean, that's what I'm kind of falling back on. I mean,
yeah, and that one has withstood the test of time, as Hossa's looked pretty good in her UFC run. I mean, Sarge, I don't think she was really winning against Sarge until she won it.
Yeah. So this is going to be like I'm going to call the upset here. I'm going to say Melissa Gatto here. I think there's definitely, for GPPs and DraftKings, I think you definitely can use Gatto. You can have some shares of Cortez as well. It's just, I think at the price, at the salary, I see Gatto as being a better. And let's look. Okay, we got Tracy Cortez, hyped prospect, is only minus 140. The take back on Gatto is plus 120. I think money has been coming in on Gatto. I don't remember where this opened.
No, it's moving. If you look at the line movement here, it is consistently moving to Gatto. So she was plus 155. Now we're talking plus 125. So we have had significant money moving towards Gatto.
So guys, you got a 7-point K fighter at plus 120. I mean, that is much better value proposition than a minus 140 fighter at 8.7K. So I'm going to call the upset with Gatto, with Melissa Gatto here, and in the one and only Vaseline fight of the night.
There it is. Macy Chasson's feelings are hurt right now, but we digress. Big Marley, how do you see this one go down? You a Melissa Gatto guy? I feel like you are.
I am. Yeah, I bet Gatto at plus 150 already earlier in the week.
That's why he's the king of MMA betting, beating those closing numbers. I'm betting Lagoy at like minus 160. It's minus 150. Like I got worse numbers earlier in the week.
I think the line's about right now. I would slightly favor Cortez in a 3-round fight, but this is similar to the Rose and Esparza fight for me. I think the only real edge for Cortez here is going to be her wrestling. And I think she could win 2 or 3 rounds just by getting on top and staying there. But give me Gatto in a striking match. If there's a submission in this fight, give me Gatto to do that. And if Gatto can get on top of Cortez, I think Cortez is going to be in a lot of trouble here. So I just like Gatto all around. I am pretty sold on her. If it was plus 120 earlier in the week, I don't know that I would have bet it. I feel like the line's pretty spot on right now. Maybe there's a slight value, like with the highest I could handicap her, because I like to handicap on like a 5% range. So I gave her 44 to 49%. So right now I think we're right at that like 44. So definitely losing the value, but I'm still on Gatto here. I'm going to pick her to get a submission in this fight, whether that's off her back or even in top control, maybe a guillotine. I don't know. Whatever it is, I just think she's the more dangerous fighter everywhere. And she's coming off of 2 TKO wins, so I think that's also in play. But also on the Cortez side, I think her ownership will suffer a little bit from the line closing in. And if she does win this fight, I think she's in play to score around 10x or so, just by getting 3 takedowns, having 10 minutes of top control, something like that. So I think both sides are in play. I'll be overweight on Gatto, underweight on Cortez.
I mean, if it was Tracy's man's Ortega fighting, I like him in almost every fight. But in this case, Tracy Cortez needs takedowns to win the fight. Gatto has pretty good takedown defense. So that alone, that's enough reason. I understand why people are on the underdog. That alone is enough reason to take a look at Gatto. 85% takedown defense historically against, again, an opponent that really needs takedowns in order to have a shot at winning the fight. I think it's pretty straightforward. 7,500 on DraftKings. If we need salary savings, that is a great place to go get it. And I don't, it's Cortez, okay, but even if she gets the 3 takedowns, I don't think that will be enough for her to score over 100 fantasy points, which you probably need at the 8,500 salary in a 15-fight card. So yeah, it's I'm much more interested in Gatto in this fight. All right, next up we've got Carlos Vergara taking on Kledson Rodriguez. K-Rod is a minus 335 favorite with the comeback on Vergara at plus 305. And the fight ends inside the distance, goes to decision, about 50-50 odds right there. So books have it 50-50 inside the distance. Big Marley, stylistically, how do you see this one going down?
I thought this Rodriguez kid looked pretty good. I didn't think he looked great anywhere, but I really didn't see any flaws either. I thought he looked very well rounded. He looked strong. So I give him the edge everywhere in this fight. So I kind of agree with the odds. I'd say maybe they're a little bit too wide just because I don't see him dominating any aspect of the fight, but I just think he's going to be a step ahead everywhere here. I think he could finish anywhere, and he's plus 130 inside the distance. If he finishes, that's his path to the optimal lineup. But I don't think he gets there in a decision win, and that's what I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick him to win all 3 rounds here and probably score, high 80s, something like that, where it doesn't cut it. But at the same time, it would shock me to see him get a knockout in the first round, a submission in the first round. So I do want a little bit of exposure. He's just going to be one of those guys that I'm sprinkling in the 9K range. And then Vergara, he's probably going to be a fade for me. I think he can keep the fight close. He's got some power. Maybe he can land a knockout. That's his real ceiling in this fight. And his cardio was decent. His pace was solid. So if he does find a way to win a decision, I would expect him to score 10x or more. But give me Rodriguez to win the fight somewhat clearly.
Decent volume for these guys, SunTszu, but kind of unsexy fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vergara has not won a decision since 2016. He's got a lot of relatively early finishes, by sub or by strikes. This is interesting because he's like a 30-year-old. I guess I would refer to him somewhat as a journeyman, and I don't mean that like negatively. He didn't look horrific against Odi Osborne. He missed weight, but I believe it was a short notice fight. I don't know, man. I mean, I guess his camp is Pete Spratt Muay Thai, which obviously doesn't seem to be one of the big name camps out of San Antonio, Texas. And then you've got Garcia, who is a Team Vergara, fighter, recently coming off a decision. It goes back to actually September on the Contender Series. I don't know, man. I think to put a lot of faith in Garcia here would be not the right way to play it. I think you could have a couple shares of him here and there. I mean, he's a younger fighter. He's 26 years old. I think they're both about the same height. They're both relatively tall for the weight class.
It's little guys, SunTszu. They're smaller. They don't tend to get finishes, and neither of these two guys wants to go for a takedown.
Yeah, I don't know that I want a lot of this fight, but if I was going to go out on a limb for a GPP, just as a salary saver, I'd probably go with the dog. But I don't know that I want a lot of this because I don't see Rodriguez as finishing CJ. And again, like I said, I've always I've liked Odi Osborne, right? And I thought he kind of did okay against Odi Osborne. It was short notice. He missed weight, obviously gassed out, but the win against Bruno Correa, he was a plus 170 underdog, and he finished him in the first round with a knee to the body. I think that's a lot more impressive than the win that Rodriguez had. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to tell you I watched a ton of tape. I saw the Osborne fight. I thought Vergara did good. At a dog price, I kind of am leaning that way, and I don't know how much of Rodriguez I want because I don't think he's going to be able to finish him. So I'll take the dog here. I'll go with the dog.
Yeah, for me, it's real simple, SunTszu, and for this fight, Rodriguez is one of those guys that normally wouldn't play on a card like this. So, but he has reasonable inside the distance odds. But normally you'd avoid this guy. He's 125 or he doesn't go for takedown. There's so many reasons. It's so unlikely that he gets a fast finish. But just for that, GPP only, essentially what this comes down to for me is in tournaments only, exclusively for ownerships, I have some interest in Kledson just because maybe he's that weirdo that finds his way into a fucking lineup that everybody's like, I don't want to play him because he sucks. But then he's that guy. He's that guy. That weirdo that made his way into your lineup by accident. He got the nuts. He got the fast finish. You weren't expecting it. It's a GPP in my 150 lineups play and nothing more. I do think Rodriguez will win the fight. He's a good fighter. I think he's got skills. He's got good wrestling skills, counter wrestling, but nonetheless, he is a skilled fighter. And I just think these two guys aren't on the same level. But like I said, it's mostly a fade. I don't want anything to do with this fight unless I absolutely have to in massive GPPs. All right. Next up, we've got Lupi Gonzalez taking on Ariane Carnelossi. Lupi is coming in as a minus 165 favorite with Carnelossi come back at plus 155. And the fight goes to decision. Prop is sitting, minus 245 and inside of distance. And SunTszu, I'm going to start with you again because we got the ladies, the Lady Whisperer. Now, Lupi, I'm not even going to say anything. How do you see this one going down?
I think they have the wrong favorite in this fight, personally. I like Carnelossi. She's a beast. I can't wait to watch the weigh-ins because this woman is jacked beyond all belief. I like Udinez, but she's shown that she could be muscled around. I really do think that, this should be an even fight, and give me a fighter at, what is she, 7.2?
Yeah, ridiculously cheap, 7.2K. Lupi's 9K.
Give me a 7.2K fighter that I cap as a pick'em all day. So I am going to be under market to Lupe at 9K, and I am going to be over market to Carnelossi at 7.2K. This is yet another underdog I'm picking in the women's fight.
I love this. But by the way, love these underdogs. Lupi goes for takedowns nonstop. That's what she do. She's very much like Jillian Robertson, though. She doesn't, if it's standing, she don't want to be there, which I like. She keeps going for the takedowns. But man, Ariane Carnelossi is like she's I've heard her described as like a Jessica Andrade light style fighter. So Big Marl, I mean, both these girls want to go for takedowns. Lupi will go nonstop, but if Ariane's got her striking, I think she's better at the striking a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both you guys. So I'm gonna roll with Carnelossi as my pick in this one. It's mostly dog or pass, really everywhere. Betting line, DraftKings. I do think Lupi can score well because her path to victory is going to be multiple takedowns. She's had 5 takedowns in 2 different fights, but she had 5 takedowns and a win in her last fight, and she only scored 86 points.
I was about to say, she got all of those takedowns, like a dream number of takedowns, and got you just 86. Yeah. Like, wait a second.
She's just not striking enough, like in the process, while she's getting 8.5 minutes of control time. So her floor is somewhat limited, and that 127, that was 5 takedowns and a sub, all in the first round. So of course you're going to score really high. In that case, if maybe she could do that.
And again, that was against Gomez Juarez, aka somebody I've never heard of, who has never fought again. And I don't know who the fuck that is, right? Gomez Juarez is where she whooped.
Yeah, Carnelossi's a decent wrestler herself, offensively anyways, and she is the stronger fighter, maybe the strongest fighter in the entire division. Like, I want my arms to look like hers when I grow up. So I just think she can win this fight anywhere. Give me the $7,200 in all formats. I like Carnelossi.
I love it. This is one of the reasons.
I might fade Godinez.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why this card, you could play whoever the fuck you want. There are multiple 760, 700s. There are lots of cheapies on this card that you can get down with. I love it. I can't wait for the kill shots. Start thinking about it, guys. Can't wait for the kill shot. But this card allows you to do a lot of things, get a lot of studs in your lineup because of all of these live underdogs. And Carnelossi, for me, is definitely in that mix. And we've got the last fight on the card, and there might be another underdog pick coming here, as we've got Fernando Garcia taking on Journey Newsom, with Garcia coming in as a minus 125 favorite, and the comeback on Journey Newsom at plus 115. Okay, the fight ends inside the distance, plus 105. So about 50-50 odds on this one. And I got to tell you, Marley, I don't think this fight will be very popular on DraftKings at all. I just think it's one of those ones where you look at it and you go, I don't know. And you just move on to the next fight because you don't really want to guess on this one what's going to happen. But do you want to take a guess on what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think both sides go pretty low owned. Garcia looks like a decent striker, decent wrestler, but I didn't see enough wrestling from him to make me think that he's going to go out there and land multiple takedowns in each round and put up a high score in a decision. He's coming off a pretty early knockout in the Contender Series. I think Newson is coming off an early knockout loss, so people was kind of put 2 to 2 together, like, all right, I'll favor Garcia to get a knockout here. But I really think that the knockout's his path to a big score here. I don't see him just going out there and taking Newson down at will. And even though he looked pretty good to me, I didn't see anything that made me think he's going to dominate this fight and deserves a 60+% line. So I went with Newson in this fight just because he's the underdog. The line talked me into it. I think he can keep this fight close on the feet, land some mean leg kicks, slow Garcia down as the fight goes on. And I think he's probably the more powerful one-punch striker the way I see it. So I think he's live for that knockout as well. I'm okay with either side in a GPP fight because I like my curtain jerkers. But this is a curtain jerker that I'm not going to have too much exposure to. And I'd probably limit the DS to 15%, something like that to both sides. But Newson is going to be my preferred play because he's the underdog.
Yeah, this feels strictly like a tournament play, kind of like I said, in your 150 mixed in a little of each guy. What say you, SunTszu?
Yeah, so I tend to agree with pretty much everything Marley said here. I mean, the last fight that Garcia had might have been a bit of an outlier. I mean, 5 of his last 6 fights were decisions, 3 of them split. That does not scream finisher to me, and in regional competition, no less. Right now, he does train at Fortis, which I like. Newsom's a bit older; he's 33. But again, there's recency bias coming into play here because he was knocked out by head kick. Randy Costa. That was not a good look, and I'm sure that a lot of people. And he was a favorite in that fight, by the way, and that was just not a great look. 34th best MMA knockout in 2020. He hasn't fought for a while. Then he had a fight against Colares, and he withdrew. Not sure what the story was there. So now here he is in 18 months?
It's been almost 2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years. That concerns me a little. Like, I don't know anything about his camp. I don't know really what he's, how he's been training. Hayward, California. I don't know anything about Impact Jiu-Jitsu. People are going to look at the younger fighter, the fighter that trains at Fortis. The only reason why this fight might get more ownership is because it's the curtain jerker, and there are people that have superstitions about wanting to have a play in the first fight of the card. So sometimes for no other reason than that, ownership, you see ownership in the first fight. But, look, I see people kind of migrating just based on recency bias to 10-1. And by the way, this guy is not a prospect either. He's 30 years old, right? So he's been around. And again, if you throw out that last fight, which, yes, was an impressive win, right? It was an impressive win. He was a big favorite in that fight. He was a 5-2 favorite. And look at the prior 5 fights, right? 4 wins and a loss, right? You've got 4 wins by decision, and you got 3 split decisions.
I mean, he's winning splits against 9 and 6 guys,
yeah,
and 3 and 4 guys. So that this is just not a guy who's quote unquote very good.
Dog or pass.
Yeah, you could take a shot on Journey Newsom. Although I would say Journey Newsom, how the fuck is he in the UFC? Like, he's only in the UFC because he stepped up on a short notice fight.
Yep.
To fight Ricardo Ramos or whatever. So neither one of these guys, this is pretty low level stuff going on here. And we'll find out, I guess, if one of them is even worthy of the bottom of the UFC barrel after this fight. All right, guys, that's 15 fights. I think we covered all of them. I don't know what's going on with these.
I wanted to add one more thing about both title fights. Oliveira's line has dropped 40 cents since the weigh-in. And then I meant to bring this up earlier when we were talking about the Rose fight, but Rose is 4-0 in rematches. So I think that's a good sign here.
You're right.
Wait, I'm more curious about this Oliveira. Now you can get Oliveira at -140. I think that's one of those lines you kind of want to jump on quick before it. This feels like, you know what this feels like, Joe? You guys will know. like after the Fed said one thing and the stock market went up like crazy, and then like the next day it went down twice as bad, and we're like, oh, head fake. We might be getting little Ben Volker. I don't even know the name of the stock market guy. Like Ben Volker, is that a person?
Yeah, he used to be the head of the
Paul
Fed.
Volcker, is it?
Well, not anymore though. He's
someone. I
you're
don't know.
dating you're dating yourself.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm from the 90s.
Yeah, one day I will come on and I will tell everybody about the rule of 72 and how to determine, how long it's going to take to double your money if you have either the number of years or the interest rate. I'll give people that little tip at some
We
point.
learned it in finance class on our
The rule of 72,
calculator.
baby.
I got a special calculator for that.
You don't even need a calculator. You can do it in your head.
Not for now, but what we will
not for now. At some point.
Never should have brought up economists. But yeah, that line is moving. But that's the card for us. So Big Marley, based on that move, are you grabbing some action on Dubronx at -140?
Yeah, I mean, I may already have some action. So
there it is. All right, well, I like it. A little hint out there. All right, now it's time for the kill shot. That part of the show where we give you our favorite underdog plays and low-owned underdog that could win you, or favorite. Your kill shot could be, it could be Brandon Royval for all I care. It could be somebody like that. Anybody who is not gonna. It could be what's his name? It could be Fialho for all I care. I don't think he's gonna be high owned. So.
Okay, I'm ready, Kevin.
Ideally, bring me a kill shot.
I'm going to give a 2-for-1. So first, I'm going to give you a straight up kill shot. My straight up kill shot is Carnelossi at +155. I like that a lot. One. Okay, and here's my parlay. My parlay is Carnelossi at +155, Melissa Gatto at +120, and Ivanov at -150. That will pay +835. Or for those of you that don't like that big number, 8.35 to 1. So if you wanted to win $1,000, you would have to put up, 125 or something like that to win 1,000. That's probably something I'm going to try to play here if I can at the Red Rock Sportsbook. But that's my kill shot. Carnelossi straight up, and then play that parlay.
Isn't it fun? These cards where there seems to be a lot of live dogs, all the favorites win, and it's just like
I hate that.
How it always goes down. But Eric E-Rock Fizzles wrote in with Matt Schnell. He took yours, maybe, Marley, and took it away. I don't know.
Cash game assassin.
Yeah, the cash game assassin. He likes Schnell. How about you, Big Marl?
Yeah, I guess I'll go with Melissa Gatto finish Cortez.
All right.
I love it. I love that one. I'm going with Ferguson. I'm going with Tony. And if you're going to bet Tony, here's I got a little something even better for you. Because Chandler is a gasser, you want to wait to bet Ferguson until the end of the first round, especially if he's losing, and especially if the line is now +1,000. Because you might have a chance to actually bet in between the first and the second round, Tony, at like serious plus money odds, because he should be losing. I have no doubt he'll be losing that first round. I'm not even going to, I don't even know. Maybe I'll pre-bet a little bit, but I'm much more interested in that one from a live betting perspective, just banking on the gassing, just banking on Chandler being a gasser. That's all. Get +1,000 odds. Going to bet it live. But Tony Ferguson's my kill shot on this one. There's a lot, though. You guys mentioned a lot of the really great ones. I would throw in... No, it's Ferguson. Even though I like Van Camp a little bit for that submission. I'm going to go with Ferguson. I just think he can win the fight if he can get it past the first round. So that's great. And none of us mentioned it, but I think Carla is definitely somebody in play as well. So there's a lot of really great underdogs on this card to target. Not Big Marley. I don't like Carla, but listen, I think she could get herself knocked out, but she could squeak by 3 rounds with those takedowns. Maybe. We'll see.
But she'll be owned. She'll have heavy. Second highest underdog on the card.
Yeah, then listen, and we wish that dude who bet like his mortgage money and his year's worth of MMA betting money on this fight.
Yep.
We wish him the best. We want him to win.
Yes, we do.
So I want to ride with that just a little bit. All right, that's going to do it. Woo, a long one. 15 fights. Special guest SunTszu. Thanks for popping in. You guys know SunTszu. You could find him on Twitter, in MMA Twitter, all over the place, talking all that game. And of course, Big Marley, 10-card betting win streak, about to make it 11 cards. BigMarleyMMA.com. And of course, myself, Geek, just doing my thing over at DFS Army. You guys want to get signed up? use the Dom Station, start crushing these tournaments across all sports. We're always making it better. Big things coming at DFS Army, SunTszu. We are in the process of full revamp of all of our tools and our website and all of that. It's going to be next level stuff.
What about the 10% off code? Come on.
10% off, promo code sleeveless. If you can't spell sleeveless, you got problems. Look it up. All right. Promo code sleeveless. You got to know how to spell that shit. Go to dfsarmy.com, sign up as VIP. Monthly VIP, SunTszu, at DFS Army is half the price of monthly VIP at the other sites, the other real sites, half the price. And we do that because we want to turn average Joes into DFS pros. That's our whole point of view. We're priced for the everyman. Get in there, sign up, $69.99. Of course, it's $69.
Yeah, Kevin, you and I, we have to talk about before football season because I know you get distracted once the pigskin comes into play. I'm a year-round MMA guy. I could care less if there's any other sports, But like we gotta talk about perhaps setting something up, an event, to watch fights, like something for guys in the tri-state. Anyone who wants to come out, like I'll definitely have you over at some time, to come over and watch.
As long as the bear claws are out, I'm there.
You need the lobster tails.
Lobster tails, bear claws.
Lobster tails have nothing to do with lobster, by the way.
No.
Yeah. So, we got to kick around because, look, I mean, it could be a great promotional tool for
We
the
should have a
DFS Army,
hangout.
but even better, just with sports betting legal in New Jersey, everybody could come in. They could, load the app. They could bet on the fights. They could do Draftkings. We just need to find the appropriate venue, and have people come in for a card.
Yeah, like nice. As long as there's wings and it's not Buffalo Wild Wings, but like.
No, I'm talking about something more exclusive, like if anybody, like I happen to live in a subdivision that has a clubhouse that you can rent out and maybe bring in like a blow up, like bunch of TVs, like just perculating ideas in my head here.
Difficult. I'm like, hey, there's a bar down the street. Let's meet up over there.
I just don't want the liquor liability. That's
you don't want anybody. You don't want anybody knowing where you live.
Well, I don't care. I really don't care. There's a couple people who are police officers that said they would de facto collect keys. Like they're also in our community, but they're police officers. They're in the MMA community. And they said, yeah, don't worry, I'll collect keys.
I'm down with all that as long as it's not during football season. Because it's
like I said, it's got to be before football season, right? So I'm thinking someplace during the summer. Maybe Marley drives in from the Great Midwest, and like he could sign autographs. And
Big Marl could be here in just 16 hours.
I know.
Drive. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, he could gas up his Tesla. That's an oxymoron. And come on out, man. So
I like it.
Well, let's make it happen, man. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
Let's find a Bonchon. That's the spot.
Korean chicken wings.
We can go watch at the Bonchon if they'll play a pay-per-view. All right, that'll do it, guys. Good luck this weekend, everybody. I will see you all in DFS Army Discord, of course, and in the Sharp Discord, where I'm going to kind of like hone in on these bets a little bit more and really get them figured out. But we got a lot of plus money, big crazy plus money bets for this weekend. Big Marley gonna go 11-0. Make sure you check out bigmarleymma.com to get those picks. And we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards, man. Good luck, everyone. Thanks for being on with us, SunTszu.
Peace.